Good afternoon, and welcome to the Wednesday, August 9, 2023 Board of Public Education regular meeting. Before we get started today, we have a special guest that will be doing something historic for us today. Judge Card.
Where would you like?
At there, yes.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's very nice to be here. President Moss, all the members of the board, everybody. My name's Ben Karp. I'm one of 6 Superior Court judges here in Chatham County, and I'm honored to be invited here today to swear in Dr. Denise Watts as the superintendent of the Savannah-Chatham County Public School System. And I'm honored for several reasons. One, I'm honored as a parent of 2 Savannah-Chatham County Public School students. Go Bobcats. I'm honored as the husband of a Savannah-Chatham County Public School teacher. Again, go Bobcats. And I also want to mention my mother, who's no longer with us. She had just about every job I think you could have in the school system. I mean, she went all the way through the school system growing up. Jacob G. Smith, Wilder Junior High, Savannah High. She was a teacher in the school system, and in fact, her first principal, I think when I was born, was Dr. Priscilla Thomas, who so many of us know and love. And she worked in administration at 208 Bull Street. In special education, she was director of the program that provided services to deaf and blind children. She was an audiologist by training, and she was a member of this board for 8 years in the 1980s, serving District 1. And I say all this so you know, folks, I understand and I know how hard everybody works. All the teachers, the staff, the administrators, and the board members work every single day, 365 days a year for our families, and I just want to thank you all for that very much. And now it's my honor to invite Dr. Watts to join me down here so I can administer the oath. First of all, it's nice to meet you. So, Dr. Watts, you have what might be the most important job in Chatham County, and we all look forward to great things. And so the oath, there are 2 oaths. One of them is kind of long and complicated. So I'm going to try and make this a little bit easier on you. I'm going to ask you to repeat after me for the first portion of this one, and then I'm going to read the rest, and you can just say, I swear it. And, you know, a lot of words to trip over. So the first part, if you will repeat after me. I, Denise Watts.
I, Denise Watts.
Do solemnly swear or affirm.
Do solemnly swear or affirm.
That I will truly perform.
That I will truly perform.
The duties.
The duties.
Of local school superintendent.
Of local school superintendent.
Of the Savannah-Chatham County Public School System.
Of the Savannah-Chatham County Public School System.
To the best of my ability.
To the best of my ability.
And at the end of this next part, you can just say, I do. So I do further swear or affirm that I am not the holder of any unaccounted for public money due this state or any political subdivision or authority thereof, and that I will manage the finances of the local school system in compliance with all applicable laws and regulations, that I am not the holder of any office of trust under the government of the United States, any other state, or any foreign state which I am by the laws of the state of Georgia prohibited from holding, that I am otherwise qualified to hold said office according to the Constitution and the laws of Georgia, and that I will support the Constitution of the United States and of this state.
I swear.
Okay. And one more here. This is another oath that all public officials need to take, and if you want to repeat after me for this one, please. I, Denise Watts.
I, Denise Watts.
A citizen of Savannah-Chatham County, Georgia.
A citizen of Savannah-Chatham County, Georgia.
And being an employee.
And being an employee.
Of the Savannah-Chatham County Public School System.
Of the Savannah-Chatham County Public School System.
And the recipient of public funds.
And the recipient of public funds.
For services rendered.
For services rendered.
As such employee.
As such employee.
Do hereby solemnly swear.
Do hereby solemnly swear.
And affirm.
And affirm.
That I will support.
That I will support.
The Constitution of the United States.
The Constitution of the United States.
And the Constitution of Georgia.
And the Constitution of Georgia. Thank
Congratulations.
This meeting is being live streamed on the district website at www.sccpss.com. Now I will confirm with the Secretary of the Board that this meeting has been posted in accordance with all laws regarding public meetings, and she affirms that it has. So we will now open our meeting. We have a special treat today with our national anthem and our pledge. And Ms. Achenbach will announce them, please.
Good afternoon. We are so pleased to have the music teachers of Savannah-Chatham County Public School System sing the national anthem for you, four-part a cappella, and they are excited to sing, and we're so grateful for this opportunity and to be able to welcome our new superintendent and welcome a kickoff to the new school year for you.
Very happy.
We had a large attendance of music teachers this year. Squeeze everybody in.
Once so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yes.
Go in his room.
Wow.
That was
Okay.
excellent.
I will now accept a motion to approve the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda with the following revisions. Item 7.21 for title change and item 8.04 for title change and deletion of 8.05, future land use purchase, use of balance fund, Fund 100.
Okay, it's been moved. Seconded. All in favor? We're voting on the agenda. Thank you.
I make a motion to amend the approved agenda with the following additions: 4.02 remembrances, 8.09 budget transfer, Georgia Power HVAC renovations for Garrison K-8.
Second? Been moved and seconded. All in favor? Thank you. All right. Announcements. Let me find them. Okay, yesterday, we did have the street designation for Virginia Edwards Manor. Next, oh, sorry, good. Next week, on the 17th and 18th, we will have the board retreat at Oatland Island Wildlife Center, 711 Sandtown Road in Savannah, from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. each day. Audit Committee meets August 24th here in the Whitney Building at 8 a.m. The Board Accountability Meeting, Equity Subcommittee will meet here August 29th, and that is 3:30. Monday, September 4th is Labor Day holiday. All schools and central office will be closed. Our informal meeting for September will be Wednesday, September 6th, from 3 to 4:30. Our executive board meeting will be Wednesday, September 6th, from 4:30 to 6, and our regular meeting will be an evening meeting at 6 p.m., all here at the Whitney Center. Our next agenda item offers a remembrance of those who have passed away in the last month. It is customary that we recognize those members of the districts past and present for their contributions to our school system. Today, we read the following names in memory of those who have done so much for this community. Mrs. Joyce Nelson, she was a SPED parapro at Charles Ellis, date of passing July 23rd, 2023. Ms. Tanya Miller, a teacher at Durin Middle, date of passing July 9th, 2023. And I would ask at this time if we would stand for a moment of silence. I like this part. I'd now like to welcome our professional Senate members for the exchanging of the plates.
Absolutely. So I will invite two of our excellent Savannah-Chatham County Public School System teachers and educators up to the front. Our 2023-24 Teacher of the Year, Ms. Reagan Dillon, and our 2023-24 Instructional Support Person of the Year, Mr. Moses McNeil. If you'll please join me. Also, Miss Elizabeth Beth Whalen. She will also report to the front. Here we all are. This is a momentous occasion, and I'm excited to be able to participate in my very first exchanging of plates. Miss Elizabeth Beth Whalen, again, who served as last year's Teacher of the Year, represents Charles Ellis Montessori Academy, along with Miss Natalie Sawyers, who serves as the 2022-23 Instructional Support Person of the Year for Jacob G. Smith Elementary, will be on hand in an annual occurrence to officially welcome the incoming Teacher of the Year and Instructional Support Person of the Year for this current school year. So with that said, we will allow the exchanging of plates to happen, and as that is happening, I will say that last week I got to be a witness to the greatness that Ms. Reagan Dillon provides for her students at STEM Academy at Bartlett. I spent a significant amount of time in her classroom, and we can certainly see why you are Teacher of the Year. And additionally, got to meet Mr. Moses McNeil, who is at Hubert Middle School, and can definitely see his impact and influence on the school and the school culture as a whole. And so it is with great pleasure that I commence this part of the ceremony.
All right. I would like to first say welcome and congratulations to Dr. Watts. I learned from my predecessor, Ms. Sherry Goldman, that not all districts have a superintendent's professional senate. I cannot express how important it is, express enough how important it is that the Senate continues to thrive in this district. It is the opportunity that teachers have for their voices to be heard. Last year, the Professional Senate worked on phase 1 of 2 of a report outlining the causes of teacher burnout in Savannah-Chatham County Public Schools. Additionally, the teachers provided recommendations for how to minimize or eliminate teacher burnout. I hope that that report was shared. If not, I can get you guys a copy. A more in-depth report will be provided as we move into phase 2 of the Teacher Burnout Task Force, which is being developed right now. I am very thrilled to be passing the Teacher of the Year torch on to Ms. Reagan Dillon. Wish that I could come and take your robotics course. I know that Ms. Dillon will represent the teachers of Chatham County well. Congratulations. Thank you.
Well, thank you. You've been somebody to watch and to learn from, and I do have your number, so watch out. I am so excited, guys, to be part of your group, and thank you for giving me this honor and this opportunity, especially with Dr. Watts here. Welcome. And I've watched these on TV in my pajamas, so now I get to dress up and come. And I'm just looking forward to being in the room where it happens, so thank you.
And unfortunately, our 2023 ISP, Miss Natalie Sawyers, she is the school nurse over at JG Smith. She could not get away this afternoon. You know, it's the beginning of the year. They're a little busy. So I am going to introduce Mr. Moses McNeil. He is our Instructional Support Person of the Year for the 2023-24 school year, and he works at Hubert Middle School. Mr. McNeil?
It's truly a pleasure being here this afternoon. I bring you greetings from John W. Hubert Middle School, home of the Hornets. But by way of Alfred Eli Beach High School, class of 1999, I'm truly honored to be here. As she said, I've always watched these on television. I'm just eager to learn the process of how we make decisions to affect our young people in the community. So once again, it's a pleasure to be here, and God bless you all.
So with that, I will move us into the superintendent's good news. And there are so many reasons to applaud. I hereby, with all the ceremonies and formal events happening, declare the opening of schools as really being the most wonderful time of the year. And we are certainly in the midst of opening school, and by every indicator, we are off to a really, really great start. And even where we have had some hiccups and snags, we have overcome those fairly quickly and got things back on track. The first day of school was great. Our team visited numerous schools on the first day. I started very early my morning with a special visit to the transportation department to thank our wonderful drivers and staff members who I refer to as the arteries of the district. They get our most prized possession, our students to and from school safely each and every day. I personally visited 10 schools over the first 2 days of school, and it was just remarkable to see the energy, the smiling faces, a true sentiment of what it means when we say together we can, happening right before me. It was evidence of happy, healthy, and resilient students and staff. The culmination of several weeks of planning was evident. I shared with the board last week in just an informal email to them that the first day of school just doesn't happen. There is a lot of planning and behind-the-scenes work that went into making that first day successful. Confidence, excitement, and enthusiasm were truly the sentiments at every angle of our district. I look forward to the many achievements that are to come. Truly, together we can. On July 20th, we welcomed 368 new educators at the SOFI sessions, and SOFI is an acronym. It stands for System Orientation for Our Incoming Educators. This is an important group of professional staff because they are our newest employees. And we certainly wanted to make sure that their transition and induction into the district was done at the highest level. They had 2 days with us, introductions to the district leadership team, programs, insight around planning. We want to thank the many vendors who made it possible. They came out to welcome staff, to cheer staff on, and to encourage our newest employees as they enter into the district. Hats off to the professional development team for a great event, and we look forward to seeing the benefits and return on investment with our new educators in this school year. Saturday, July 22nd, was another memorable occasion. We hosted our Back to School Expo. Several thousand of our families came out to enjoy food trucks, family fun, and most importantly, an opportunity to interact with district leaders, enroll in school if they had not done that, gotten more information, meet and greet teachers and principals at each of the schools in our district. It was a great event. It was a hot event as the air condition at some point decided to fail on us. But again, the team was able to regroup and work out a plan B, and we fully maximized that entire day. I would like to give special thanks to, of course, all the schools and departments that came out to support on that particular Saturday, with special thanks to the communications department, our campus police officers for safety and security, and especially the CTAE team, who was very instrumental in the planning and organization of the event. Our district's first locally organized teaching and learning conference. So this was a first opportunity for our district to bring all of our teachers, pre-K-12, together to begin their school year with a joint learning conference with all of our teachers in one place. These events were held at New Hampstead High School and Johnson High School. Over 1,000 teachers participated. I had the opportunity to participate myself in these day-long instructional sessions. where teachers got some early insight, opportunity to plan and interact with colleagues around mathematical modeling and problem solving, reading strategies, classroom management, and so much more. We thank our sponsors again who made it possible, and for the excellent work from our academics affairs team for organizing this very special event. But I'm not finished yet because we have some more reasons to applaud. Windsor Forest Elementary School received an extreme makeover education style. Thanks to a grant from the Georgia United Foundation in partnership with the Georgia United Credit Union, the Georgia Unified School Crashers provide an entire room makeover so that our teachers could have a break room and a gathering place within the school. The grant was written and submitted by the teachers at the school. So this is a good example of self-advocacy. And congratulations to Windsor Forest Elementary School. A big, big, big thank you to our partners at Savannah College of Art and Design for the donation of new and gently used art supplies to our amazing art educators across the district. On July 31st, our art teachers got to shop for supplies, included paintbrushes, paints, canvases, and all of the other artsy stuff that art teachers and our students need so that they can engage in the creativity that they bring to education. Again, this is just one more example of Together We Can, a true partnership we enjoy with our community and especially our friends at this world-class university. Special thanks to President Paula Wallace and the entire SCAD SERVE team for the support. And finally, we are very proud of the continuous achievement that our schools are making. We would like to recognize a new state-level award that has drawn some excellent recognition. As you know, the Georgia Department of Education's release of the 22-23 Comprehensive Support and Improvement and Targeted Support and Improvement Schools also includes those schools who have exited that list of schools and that designation. And we have 3 of our schools that actually exited the list. And what this indicates is a true indication of school improvement in terms of test scores, that the state no longer needs to have a label placed on these schools. So I would like to recognize, let me see the names of the schools here. Hodge Elementary, the School of Humanities at Juliet Gordon Low Elementary, and the School of Liberal Studies at Savannah High were on the list of 92 schools that have made these significant improvements to exit the list and this designation. I'd like to send a special congratulations to the school leadership, staff, students, families, and partners that supported this transformation effort that is occurring at these particular schools. Thank you. I would also, as a part of my report, like to provide you with some opening of school updates. I have tried to keep you informed informally of things, but this is an opportunity to provide you with some data that highlights some of the things that we have experienced and we are observing in our schools for the opening of schools. And I'd like to just take an opportunity before I launch into some of the data to recognize many of our cabinet members and staff members who are in the room who have certainly contributed to some of the data, again, indicators of a strong opening of school. If you guys would just please stand. Opening of school, operations team, finance team, academic affairs, financial, accountability, everybody. Our attorneys. Yes. And certainly our teachers and principals are not in the room today. However, it's a joint effort to make these things happen and to make sure that school opens effectively and efficiently. So the first big data point that you'll see is this 36,000 plus number. That is the number of scholars who walked into the doors of our schools across the district on the first day. They were greeted by friendly staff and community members. By every account that I looked at, asked questions about, probed around, schools were well prepared for school to open. Our students were also well prepared because many of them looked as if it was day 50 of school versus day 1. So it was really great to see opening of schools, see each and every student walk into the school, and school opening was managed very well with very little disruption. A couple of other updates, and again, this is the result of truly pre-planning and preparing. We had very few disruptions regarding the first day of school with parents showing up to register their students. That's an indication that parents listened to us, they registered early, so that when students arrived on the first day of school, they could just go straight into class and did not have to wait in the office to get a schedule and to enroll in school. So very excited and proud of the pre-work that went into that. We are watching no-shows so that we can balance out for day 10. Our enrollment numbers continue to fluctuate, probably as you would expect them to over the first few days of school. So we are daily monitoring those numbers, not only holistically as a district, but school by school. Pre-K should be something that we should all be smiling about at this point in time. It's so exciting. You cannot go into a preschool classroom and not be reminded of why you are an educator. But we have a wait list, a growing wait list of pre-K students. We have exceeded the number of seats that we are able to offer. As you can see, this school year we have 765 students on a wait list in comparison to last year's 520 students. To me, this is a clear signal that we need to be prioritizing preschool as an opportunity for our students. There is definitely interest, as you can see by this. So that will be something we'll be looking at very closely moving forward. But our pre-K students showed up ready to learn, truly in every single way. We are closely monitoring school capacity numbers. We have a couple of high schools that are of particular interest to me. I think the phrase was used, bursting at the seams. Groves, I believe, is looking for available space. We're having to figure out where we're going to place students because the building has reached its full capacity. But yet we still have students who are trying to enroll. So high school enrollment across the board continues to increase, but in a couple of schools, we've really seen some significant increases. And we are keeping our eye very closely, laser-like focused on supporting our English as a second language students, making sure we have positioned staff there to support translation across our district. Transportation was ready to roll. I knew that from the moment I stepped on the bus lot at 5:50 or at 4:50 on the very first day of school. We have an increase of ridership, as you can see here on this slide, 628 more students riding the bus in comparison to last year. What I'm really excited about and what really speaks to the efficiency in our opening of schools is that we had a 53% drop in calls to the district office regarding transportation concerns. So last year, a little over 1,200 calls were made. This year, only a little over 600 calls were made. And so I think that's an indication of our transportation department's planning, hard work, but also our parents being patient with us and knowing that it takes a couple of days for the buses to roll on time. We were excited this year to implement our new student ID scanner system. This is going to be a game changer in terms of safety, the ability to be able to track our students, and that is up and running at a pretty high level at this point in time, and we're expecting it to continue to get better as we move forward. Would like to remind parents, I'm a parent too, don't forget the Here Comes the Bus app. It is the best ever. You can literally see where your child's bus is, making sure you show up to intercept the bus before, at the bus stop or where your child is in transition. It's just a really good way to have information regarding your child's transportation to and from school each day. So if you haven't downloaded that app, do so. I had the opportunity on the first day of school to have lunch with a group of sixth grade students. If you haven't had lunch with students, you might want to go do that. That is a very entertaining experience, to say the least. I learned a lot from those sixth grade students. And I also observed our cafeteria team just providing world-class service by all regards. Want to remind our public that breakfast is free to all students. We really want to encourage our students to have a meal to start the day off right. Points of sale worked very well. All of our systems performed. The new kitchen at Savannah Arts, I got to visit it myself. It is absolutely beautiful. Such a wonderful space for our students to be able to socialize and enjoy lunch each day. And families, please do not forget to fill out a meal application. There are a lot of linked benefits to that. You can visit our website to do that. But that meal application not only could have your child getting a couple of meals a day, but it could also be linked to some other benefits. So please, please, please take advantage of that opportunity. 384 new teachers, as you can see, that we onboarded. They were all first day ready. We still have some needs though, so I can't say enough that we need bus drivers, we need custodial workers, we need crossing guards, we need paraprofessionals. If you have any interest in any of those roles, again, visit our website. We would love for you to join the workforce in our wonderful school district. And our health force was also alive and well, school nurses in place at every school. And I cannot emphasize to you how important that is for our students to have access to medical and well-being during the day. School safety has worked exactly how it has been expected to work. Again, that's not happenstance. That comes from leadership and planning. We had, of course, what every district across the country experiences with arrival and dismissal hotspots in terms of traffic. But our screening, our layered screening systems worked at a high level. Our procedures for visitors signing in and out. Campus police were not only visible, but interacting with parents, students, and staff, which really just gave just a really nice feeling of security and safety, but building those relationships. Maintenance, could not thank you enough. You are behind the scenes and often not recognized enough. But when things break and we need to pick up the phone, we want things fixed instantly, and they are often the ones that are the front line of defense. And so particularly where we have had HVAC issues with this very hot weather, they have been extremely responsive. And IT and technology have rolled out some amazing programs and strategies that have all been day one ready and helped us be more efficient on the opening days of school. Acorn Academy, another really great experience for me. I got to go down the big slide there. It was great. There's some video of that somewhere. I hope it doesn't show up at the wrong time at the wrong place. But we have 22 students enrolled at the new Acorn Academy, and 22 students also enrolled at the school. We have 22 enrolled in both locations, let me just say that, with several students on a wait list. I also had the opportunity to go out to Bloomingdale. It was so awesome to meet both of the principals. They have demonstrated that they roommate together very well. They are sharing space. They are getting along. They are partnering very well. But most importantly, I saw evidence of our students coexisting both at the elementary and the middle school level very, very well. That acclimation of both of those levels of school looked extremely efficient and well planned. It's going to be an amazing school year. Again, if our first days are any indication of what our last day will be, this year is going to be a success. Thank you.
Okay, we will now have, I'm sorry. We'll have our Board of Education matters. Mr. Hediger.
Thank you, Mr. Board President, Madam Superintendent, board officers, members of the board. As we move forward on the agenda, we do have item 6.01, which leads off your Board of Education matters. This is a 4-year policy review for the board. This particular policy review is ABCB, which is board member qualifications. This is a first reader. However, there are no changes to this particular policy that we're recommending. So subject to the board's final review and of this policy, if there are no changes from the board, we would like to move it forward as being officially reviewed under our requirements of the 4-year policy review system.
Ms. Hoskins-Brown.
Thank you. I don't have changes. I just wanted to ask, we talk about our board training every year, and we bemoan the fact that the only ones that count towards our state requirement are those that are offered by the Georgia School Board Association. But this policy doesn't say that that's the case. So I just want to get clarification where we know that rule from. Is it the state that says that only the GSBA training applies to their state requirement, or how do we know that? It's not that I don't believe it's true. I just think it would be good to clarify who sets that rule and maybe put it more clearly in our policy.
Yeah, we do have a reference in this policy to the State Board of Education rule number, and that is obviously a driving force with that, but we'd be happy to certainly circle back to the Georgia School Board Association to get any clarity on that if there's another level. But of course, you do have general overarching state code language that codifies the need to have a certain amount of training for boards of public education, and then that's flowed out through SBOE rule.
Right.
So if there is if there's a request of the board to go back and actually cite the state code language, we could certainly easily do that.
I just want to know it. So it says, fourth paragraph from the bottom, each local board member training program must include training curricula aligned with State Board of Education governance standards for local boards, rule, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And then the very last paragraph is all board members may participate in GSBA development activities as a part or in addition to the annual training required by Georgia law. So what I'm asking is, we've done other training that never counts. The only training that counts is the GSBA training, or the training that we do here ourselves, but we hire a GSBA consultant to come do. So if it is that GSBA training is the only one that's allowed with the state board, let's just say that. And if there is other training, I think some of us are kind of tired of some of the same classes over and over again. We'd love to know what that other training is so we can learn some new stuff.
Excellent. So let us research that a little bit. I do know, of course, the board is familiar with annually the requirement to adopt the board's training schedule as well, which sets out the parameters of what the board says it will do to meet this requirement. So that does play a role in an influential factor as well. But we'd be happy to research further on the true qualifications of that. I do note that there are components in here as well that require whole board governance training and components like that which go into the list. So we'll go back and we'll circle with our friends at GSBA and research that further to add that clarity. If it does not submit to any changes in the language, then we will certainly make a note that doesn't apply, that this is an investigation of further information for clarity.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hall and then Ms. Grabowski.
I just want to reiterate what Dr. Hoskins-Brown is saying. We have a perfect opportunity. We have a retreat coming up, but because nothing has been planned through GSBA, we will miss that opportunity to perhaps gain some hours. So the whole board training, if that's something that they have to initiate, or if we have to initiate it, if you would get a full understanding, Mr. Hediger, of what needs to be done so that we don't end up in May having the scuffle and then finding out, like she mentioned, that we're taking courses over and over again because the options are very limited.
Yeah, excellent. And we will do that. And the final thing just to throw out, one of the things we want to do with the board as well is to have You know, there's a requirement by state law now that all schools have intruder training by the 1st of October. Well, our Board of Education Police Department would like to do that with the board as well. So safety training for the board is an important piece too, as we all are working in public forums and we're often moving about the community. To me, that's something that I think that would be applicable to credits for the board training. So those are things, as I hear what you're talking about, we'll clarify and find out exactly what counts.
Thank you. Ms. Grabowski, I'm
Just
sorry.
quickly, not to think the horse is probably already past its prime, but it does state right here, Dr. Hoskins Brown, after the rule, all board member training shall be conducted by training providers approved by the State Board of Education. So I think that's the language we're looking for. What is that list of those providers?
Right.
Is it more than just GSBA? So I think it is in the policy, but to the points already made, we'd love a little something different. Thank you.
No further comments on that one. Moving along in your agenda, item 6.02 is Board Policy ABCE. This is the policy that governs how a board member may seek to resign. If that need comes about for whatever reason, there is a process for announcing that and making it known. We did note that some of the language in here seemed to be a little overarching, I guess, in what the requirement of an individual board member would do. There also was a little bit of not quite very clear on roles and responsibilities as far as what the superintendent's office would be required to do in that process. So we did clarify that. We cleaned that up to ensure that if an individual board member does seek to provide a resignation, it will provide it to the appropriate board member, as in the board president. We have received some early feedback on that to also include the board officers, which I think is a very wise move that we can modify for the second reader when it comes back to the board. But the onus of getting the information where it needs to go, such as up to the state under the Gold Dome, would fall to the purview of the superintendent.
Ms. Hoskins Brown.
Thank you. So the way this policy reads, it goes from the president to the board and the superintendent, and then the superintendent notifies the state leadership. Could we insert that the superintendent or the board president will notify the board? Because in this, you don't really have a mechanism to learn of that on the board. And, you know, we are a board of friends and family now, but there have been times where that's not been the case. And so you may not get that information from individual conversation. So, yeah, so somebody just does show up, and yeah, we talking over the M&Ms that somebody quit, so.
Yes, I could see where this would fit perfectly in the policy, and we'll simply add to it where, as a superintendent is required to make the notifications to the appropriate state level persons, they will also CC the full board. Yeah.
Okay.
Just out of curiosity, nothing against you, Mr. Moss, but if the president wanted to resign, would he then give that document to the vice president and then to the super? If so,
Yeah,
that's not in this.
yes, sir. Excellent segue. That was part of the
For
conversation.
press, I am not resigning.
As I said.
So to that point, you're right. If the board president were to resign, would he notify himself? Well, that wouldn't work, right? So to Ms. Grabowski had raised it actually that's the importance of including the full board officers in that narrative, and something that the board over the last several years I think has had a great step forward in its just overall governance is including the board officers as in the vice president pro tem in certain operational functions that in many years past under the board operation really only fell to the board president. So we see that as a beneficial thing and as a good thing, and this is a great example of that. So that's where that language, which will change to the second reader, will make the notification to the board officers. Yeah. So this is a first reader. We have edits, obviously, and we'll bring that back to the board for a second review at the next subsequent board meeting, which will then be an opportunity to approve. Next policy, moving on your agenda, item 6.03 is board policy BBE. Of course, this is the guidelines and governance for having board attorneys. For the board, obviously, our board attorneys and our legal representation and our legal input play a very important role in the operation of the decisions of the board and also in the guidance that we have for administration as well. This has been reviewed and there are no recommended changes here, so subject to any final comments of the board at this particular juncture, we'd like to consider this one fully reviewed under our 4-year policy requirement.
Yes.
It's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me. Only under Robert's Rules of Order, normally you put newly revised after that because it's whatever version has been published recently, and right now is whatever the white version is. And so that would make this up to date.
Can you elaborate that you're speaking to the titling of it?
Yeah, so Robert's Rules of Order is reviewed, I think, every 4 years, and bodies that use parliamentary procedure and refer to Robert's Rules of Order are referring to the official published copy. And when that copy is revised, it's like now we've been using it so long, it's not just Robert's Rules of Order. It's called Robert's Rules of Order newly revised.
Oh, I
think the
understand.
last-
I understand.
Yeah. So
Thank
the
you.
last version that was published would be newly revised.
Very good. I
Nobody
understand.
likes my Taylor Swift reference? Okay,
Didn't
go
get
on.
it.
I'm the anti-hero, okay.
Got it. Yes, thank you. So, yeah, we'll make that modification, which this will then trigger the point for us to bring it back for a second read adoption at the next board meeting. Hearing no other comments, moving along in your agenda, we do also have item 6.04, which is Board Policy BE, School Board Records. This also is a 4-year review process for us, and we do not have any recommended changes on this particular policy section either, and we'd like to bring it forward for the board's final review. Subject to your comments, this will be considered reviewed per our 4-year policy review process.
Thank you. Okay, before we move on to our consent agenda. Oh, we have one. I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
Any comments? No comments? No comments on that. Moving along to your final item in your Board of Education matters. This is item 6.05. This is Board Policy CD, which is line and staff relations. We did find that there was a necessary approach to this to go ahead and overhaul the language. It really has not been worked on since 2018. Had a review date also that went all the way back to 2010. But many times we've had discussions about the role of the superintendent and what the state law codifies, and the fact that the superintendent, as the CEO, if you will, makes all the recommendations for hiring, which of course then have to be approved by the Board of Education. But through that, all individuals who are employed by the Savannah-Chatham County Public School System effectively report to the superintendent. Previous language in here did set aside a few very small components of employee segments that had a direct line to the board president. We did recognize that while that is a functional process that is necessary, we do need to make it very clear that the superintendent is who all employees do report to. We did add, though, in doing that, a recognition that the board president does have for certain employees, such as the audit department and the board office, has supervisory requirements therein, and that is referenced as a component in this particular policy section. What we're trying to do is set the tone correct, where if you see it on an org chart, for example, you still have that direct line of reporting, but there is a broken line that goes to the oversight for the board president. So this is a first read. There'll be a second read adoption at the next meeting.
All right, Ms. Grabowski, Mr. Katchmar, Hoskins Brown, Ms. Hall.
I'm sure my colleagues will have a lot more, but in the last paragraph that references the direct supervision and evaluation over specific employees, it seems that should not be a such as, but it should be specifically related to internal audit or board office employees, because the other employees should not be, I don't think, included in that kind of special advisory or supervisory role.
Understood. That language does give a suggestion that there could be others, so it should be specifically related to.
Okay, Mr. Katchmar.
Yeah, I had shared this comment earlier. I understand state law says the superintendent hires and fires staff. What the last sentence says is the superintendent may provide for direct supervision and evaluation over specific employees, such as internal audit and board employees. So that may means it's permissive. My comment is we have internal audit to do internal audits, and they need to be able to act without fear of retaliation or retribution or career, et cetera. And by saying that, I'm not saying that I fear there will be retribution or retaliation, but I think a good practice is to insulate an audit team so that they can look into whatever they need to look into. And so I know this is a first read. I think there needs to be some tweaking so that if there is going to be discipline or termination for internal audit in particular, there needs to be an independent review process. I had suggested the board officers, maybe the board attorney, just some other mechanism to ensure there's some independence. And I say this as a lawyer who does employment work and does internal investigations and advises on this stuff and does this stuff all the time. And I say it not to call into question anybody in the district, the superintendent and HR, district staff, et cetera. It's just a good best practice to provide some insulation. So my request is that we put that thought and we give it some thought and see what we can do to revise kind of the structure, but still stay within legal requirements.
Okay, Dr. Hoskins-Brown.
Thank you. I understand the theory of that, and I don't. The last paragraph is not problematic to me. I think that the president delegating, the superintendent delegating day-to-day supervision over the internal audit office makes sense. But here's my concern about this philosophically, is that we've elevated this a lot this year. We've been talking about this a lot this year, and we've had challenges in the past with the nature of reporting from internal audit to the board and confusion about duties over not just one administration. So I'm not going to point to this or the previous. We've had this over more than one superintendent and more than one board administration. So obviously there's an opportunity for improvement. What I'm concerned about is that, first, audit reports are data-driven and public. Internal audit doesn't come and say, the wind is blowing to the west, I think we ought to change this program. They're actually going, using metrics, using rubrics, collecting data and saying, our report, our investigation shows us that this is happening and we should probably look at it. So why are we so concerned about protecting or malfeasance happening in an office that is so data-driven that everything that they do is documented and comes to us? They are protected by equal opportunity federal policies and laws. They are protected by the Whistleblower Protection Act of 1989. And we're not obligated to use it, but some people use the Sarbanes-Oxley Act to protect individuals who are working in this area. So they're not completely unprotected. But this keeps getting elevated this year, and it makes me think like there's some discomfort that's coming from something else other than our structure, because the level of dysfunction that we've had in the past should have made us want to look at this before now, and we didn't. And the reason that I say that is because we don't talk as much about how we take action against teachers and administrators who are more susceptible to subjectivity and who serve in a larger role. We have our review process for them. You know, we make personnel decisions every month, but for some reason, this small unit, we've gotten very, very concerned that the superintendent is going to do something to them, and I don't know why. So I agree that there does need to be a structure that if someone in that unit does need to have disciplinary action or some order action, that it does make sense that there be some other mechanism besides just directly with the superintendent, but I just wonder why this is so hot this year.
Okay, Ms. Hall and then Mr. Katchmar.
As a member of the audit committee for several years, I thought at one point that we were going to actually just take a look at the charter and see if we needed to make any revisions there. But save that, Dr. Hoskin Brown's reflections are pretty much my own. I don't want there to be any employee who, should they indulge in any inappropriate behavior, there is no reckoning with that because the superintendent does not have that authority. So given that, we can work through this and come to a final decision about what's best to do.
Mr. Katchmar.
This is the first time I've raised anything related to internal audit in years, number one. Number two, I haven't talked to anybody on audit or related to this issue. So to respond to the insinuations, I think it's a good best practice to insulate an internal auditor that has a specific role to shine a light within the organization's practices. Everyone in the school district has whistleblower protections under various laws. And if you're raising specific issues that are protected under federal statutes, there's anti-retaliation provisions. So everybody has those protections. But an internal auditor who raises an issue about inappropriate job performance, there is no specific law that protects them from raising that issue. There are no federal laws that protect them. So all I'm saying is, to the extent that there's going to be discipline or termination related to internal audit, there should be an extra set of eyes reviewing that decision. That's all I'm saying. And other than that, I think it's a best practice. It's a common practice. Other than that, this is the first time I've addressed anything about internal audit. So I don't know what your insinuations are coming from, or what your concerns are. That's all I'm trying to address.
I appreciate your expertise and your concern, and I could understand how you would think that those were insinuations because you don't have the benefit of knowing what we've talked about in audit. We've been talking about this in audit since the beginning of this year, and I know you serve on many committees and your responsibilities are great, so you just don't have the opportunity to know that this was a priority of our current chair. So the word insinuation is not really accurate, but I can understand why you feel that way. We've been talking about this on the audit committee for a while. So, I invite you to coffee and I can talk to you more about what the concerns have been.
Okay. I don't want to spend all afternoon talking about this. We are unique in that we have an internal audit department. It's one of our advantages. Maintaining the integrity and the objectivity and the freedom of an internal audit committee is sacrosanct. And yes, an internal audit department is special because they are given the responsibility of looking objectively at what we do and making sure that we do it, making sure that we do it correctly, and making sure that we do it lawfully. I don't have a problem with any superintendent ultimately being their employer. That's just natural. That's the way it should be, right? I do believe, though, and this is also for the public, for the public to have faith in our internal audit department, they have to know that if there is ever a conflict, that there is that next level and actually from the board, of making sure that we are protecting the internal audit department. Because if we don't, and we do have someone, and if I have, there's no, Dr. Watts is fine, but we don't know. And the reason that we have policies is to protect from, just in case. So just in case, I do believe we need to have that level from the board of, and I'm not saying the board hires the internal audit department, okay? Again, the superintendent hires everyone, right? What I'm saying is, if to protect from the, remember that whole phrase, the appearance of impropriety? To protect from the appearance of impropriety, I would like to keep the internal audit department free. And so having that second level from the board, because this is our responsibility, I believe that we need to have that next level. And that is some, and by the way, this is something that we probably need to have legal look at. And so I would suggest, Mr. Hediger, that you and legal get together. But there's one more thing. We have to also look at our bylaws, because where this came up is how our bylaws are written for the internal audit committee. That's the rub is in our bylaws. So we really have to go back and look at the bylaws and make sure that the bylaws reflect that. Ms. Grelsky.
So I'm not on the audit committee, and I'm not an attorney, and I haven't been on the board to experience all of the past issues that may have come up. But just as a regular board member, I see the internal audit department as a check and balance.
Yes.
That's an evaluation of our district as a whole, and so therefore, I do think it has a different relationship than our teachers and our principals because of its holistic approach and its data-driven approach. So I'm not the expert to say exactly what that policy should read, but I do support having a policy that reflects their ultimate supervision and hiring by the superintendent, but also their autonomy to be able to work directly with the board and do so in a way in which they feel that they can provide the most objective and comprehensive evaluation in the conducting of their services.
I'm sorry, Ms. Hall. Howard Hall.
Yes, I'm not a member of the audit committee, but for the past 4 years, I've attended pretty much every meeting that convened, and it hadn't been any concerns until this year. So I guess we need to really look at the crux of the problem to find out what happened, because this is my 5th year, and for the past previous years, there was never an issue about what was going on within the audit committee. So, and also is an opportunity to talk about the external auditing as well, which may play a role in the oversight of the internal auditors.
All right. Well, guys, it may be a year before we get to that one. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that coffee is going to get big. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Board President. We've been listening very closely, and of course, we'll take the feedback and continue to work on this. Do want to remind, obviously, we want to make sure that all our policies are in line with state code and state rules and state laws that are out there. So this is the primary overarching position of some of these policy changes. And I will remind that what this did also is it triggered the domino to fall to also look at the bylaws and also look at the charter. So that is in fact going on, and I do believe that the revisions to the charter will be coming forward in a future audit committee meeting very soon. So this is all kind of bundled together, and really the overarching feeling over the historical components had tied to that discussion of all employees report to the superintendent, and we knew that in this particular policy section that needed to be cleaned up.
Mr. Moss, can we have this draft of this policy shared with the audit committee chair? I mean, that's one of the values of that committee, is that the chair is a community member, and that's one of the external checks and balances. So since we're trying to balance this board policy with the committee charter, with historical reckoning, can't we just give all that to him to look at and also form an opinion? So we're not just like doing this work here, then the committee is doing that work there?
I agree.
Okay, I would really appreciate that.
It's fine.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else? All right. Okay. Next.
That concludes the Board of Education matters. Turning over the agenda to the board president. Consent agenda is next on your rundown.
Okay. So I want to do this correctly. I'll accept a motion to accept this consent agenda. Anyone? Yes, Ms. Grabowski. Seconded? Anyone second? Okay, all right. Now we'll have discussion. Okay, now we'll have discussion, and we have someone here to speak on 721, which is part of the consent agenda, and that is Ms. Mayana White.
Mr. President, and maybe this is a Dr. Hoskins-Brown question, is it appropriate, since we have someone speaking on that item, to remove it from the consent agenda, or do we leave it on the consent agenda?
Dr. Hoskins-Brown doesn't know. We normally don't talk about, if we want to talk about it, we normally pull it.
Pull it, okay.
So I don't know. This was 7.21?
Yeah.
Did we didn't pull 7.02, did we?
We did not.
The minutes? No. Okay. All right. I'm sorry, Ms. Leilani?
Mayona?
Mayo?
Is that what y'all have down? Mayona?
Yes.
Mayona White? Okay.
I apologize. Please proceed.
I'm here representing the parents of New Hampstead High School. We are having trouble with the turf. We understood yesterday there was a news article published about $2 million update to Islands High School Stadium. I'm not sure if you guys know, but we do not have a field. Are y'all aware of that? We have always had irrigation issues where it rains and it floods, and we're not able to use the field. We also are not able to have home games. We are using secondary schools and sister schools for stadiums and whatnot, including Island High School. We do not have a place. Over the summer, turf was supposed to be installed. The grass that we did have, the little bit of grass that we did have, was tore up. So there's nothing there now. And over the summer, we have had to travel. Every single parent has had to travel to take our football players to and from practice, going to Pooler, going to Bloomingdale, because we do not have a site at the school to practice. June 26th, we failed inspection for turf to be installed. The ground is unstable. It's also soft and clayed. So we were denied to have that turf installed. Are y'all aware of that we failed inspection? So we have failed inspection. Continuing on for this year, going forward in sport, we will now have to transport the kids for practice after school daily because we don't even have grass. And for every game that we have, it will be an away game. I am a parent. We also do fundraising. To do fundraising at these secondary locations, we have to abide by rules. There's also a food and no beverage. Last year, we had trouble getting beverages to our players because they would not let us bring in outside water, packed and contained. Could not do it. We also can't fundraise. They will not allow us to sell any of the goods. It is very crippling to our school and to our team. So I'm here just asking for support or someone to steamroll this project, because the field, I went out yesterday and did drone pictures. It's a sandlot. The irrigation problem is still there. We supported our kids. Our kids have suffered with us. They have been great sports about sticking to it and going to these practices outside. We do need support. We need help. And that is why I'm here. So thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. And point of order, and I'm sorry, what's on the consent agenda is about design. The 804 actually talks about the budget for islands. So you guys were correct. When we get to 804, we will have the speakers. And I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, I had you under the wrong thing. Yeah. Okay? All right. Now, back to the consent agenda. It's moved and seconded. All in favor? That is 7. Oppose? Recuse? Abstain? There we go. Okay. Didn't do it as one of them. All right. All right. Let's move on. What's next? Come on. Okay. Yeah. That's what the handouts to say.
Good afternoon, everyone. I try not to be in front of you long. Before you, we have the financial statements for the interim financial statements for the period ending June 30th. I do want to point out these are unaudited statements. We're going to begin the project for the audit in the next couple of weeks, and we should hopefully have it finished in a couple of months. For all funds, this is 100% of the fiscal year and 100% of the school year has elapsed. In the general fund, for revenues, local property taxes are currently 109% of the budget, which is lower than last year's of 101.7%. Now, I do want to point out when we talk about local property taxes, as we did during the millage rate hearing, it includes real property, that's on your personal property taxes, also vehicle taxes, delinquent taxes, and so on. We're a little behind on collection of our budgeted amount for real property taxes, but for some reason this year it's been odd. Vehicle tax collections is extremely high, and we're about $9 million above budget for vehicle taxes, but we're a little behind on actual property taxes. For the total general fund revenues, we're 100% of the current modified budget, which is a little bit higher than last year of 99.2%. As far as the general fund expenditures, we also always look at the teachers' account lines. We're 97.6% of the current modified budget, which is less than the 100% expected. Other support salaries are 97.3%, which is lower than expected. But I do say over the last 2 or 3 years, we've been able to fill some of the teaching positions with full-time teachers, so that percentage is increasing every year. Total actual general fund expenditures are 90.8% of the current modified budget, which is lower than last year of the 95.6%. The fund that we normally highlight, some of the other funds we are at year end. Some of the grants have expenditures that we do need to clear up, but we're trying to wait until we get all of the accounting adjustments in. Then you may see some additional adjustments for some of the other grant funds. We do have a couple of funds, for instance, pre-K, where we're going to have to come back and do an additional allocation to pre-K. We are short in that fund from what we budgeted in the operating transfer, mainly, as we mentioned earlier, mainly because of the increase in health insurance costs. We may have to pick up some of that cost from a transfer of the general fund. So I will bring that to you next month. Again, I know pre-K is one of them, and I believe we have one more. The only fund that I really want to highlight that we historically would take a look at would be food service. And this may be, I'm not sure if we need to continue keeping food service on here, but we're currently showing a net profit of $901,991. Keep in mind that not all entries have been posted for FY23. Again, here's a fund where we have $3.1 million budgeted as an operating transfer from the general fund to food service for the school nutrition fund. But again, as we move forward, that's something we're going to look at. We want to try to get through FY24, look at the effects of the health insurance rate increase, because they have a lot of classified employees there that we have to cover from the food service fund. But at this time, those are the only concerns that we have from the staff. Are there any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, we know that the state budget, the fiscal budget ends June 30th.
Correct.
And the federal fiscal budget ends September 30th.
September 30th.
So what is our status with our federal budget as far as our expenditures are concerned, percentage-wise? Because I know it's August and, next month, September, and how are we looking with those expenditures?
Percentage-wise, I would have to get you some numbers percentage-wise, but based upon what we're seeing in the budgets between the 2 years, we're pretty much on target with most of the federal funds. We're closing out CARES 2, which is also going to end September 30th. So once we spend that, that would be the end of the CARES funds, except for the ARP, which ends next year. But most of the federal grants, we're pretty much on target. Like I said, we just need to do some cleanup for the year-end expenditures. There's some expenditures that showed up in the month of July that we need to push back to June. But overall, we're in pretty good shape. They're doing pretty good.
Anyone else? Okay, moving on.
All right. Move on to the other agenda items.
Yes.
Okay. I believe the first one is facility upgrades, modifications, and equipment in Fund 307 and 308 interfund transfer. Just want to point out quickly, most of you are familiar with seeing Fund 308. That's what we normally use for the capital project side of things. We use Fund 307 for everything that's typically not capital projects. It could be maintenance, it could be food service, it could be something on the academic side. But Fund 308 is normally controlled by capital projects, and it shows up on all of their reporting. So we try to use Fund 307 for everything else that's not capital projects. The Division of Operations Long Range Facility Plan has identified additional upgrades, modifications, and equipment upgrades that will be provided by the district sites and departments. The Division of Finance would like to use savings that resulted from limited operations to support critical district functions. The summary of the budget adjustments are below in the amount of $3.1 million. Thus, be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the board approve the budget transfers as described above to provide an operating transfer to Fund 308 various project accounts for deferred maintenance, and to Fund 307 for maintenance utility vehicles.
Do I have a motion? Moved. Second? Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor? Thank you. Right.
Okay, this item is similar to the one before, audio enhancement projects. This is in Fund 308. The Division of Operations is requesting a budget amendment for the school district for audio enhancement. The transfer of funds from the general fund will be used for sites that are currently unfunded by East Plus, which are Myers, Oglethorpe, Hurd, Olive Hope, and Haven. The proposed summary of transfers are in the chart below. Thus, be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the board approve the audio enhancements budget amendment as detailed in this agenda item in the amount of $2,526,000 for FY23.
Been moved by Ms. Hall, seconded by Mr. Johnson. Any discussion?
Just that I want to say how elated I am to see that this money is going to be used for the audio enhancement initiative. We've been able to complete it at several of the schools, so it's nice to see that we're adding these 5 schools. And if all of you remember, we had a demonstration here one day about it, and showing how it's going to help with our security and with our instruction. So I'm very pleased to see that we're moving forward. Thank you.
Yes, Ms. Grabowski.
So where does this put us overall with our schools? How many schools are left that we still, or how many have we done? I guess maybe it's an easier way to do it. Do you know?
I'm not sure. I can get you the information.
Okay.
In East Plus, we've budgeted for a number of schools. Unfortunately, we don't have enough in East Plus to take care of all of the schools. I think in their initial plan or proposal in East Plus 4, they requested about $25 million to do most of the schools. They ended up with about $12 million in East Plus 4. So over the next 2 or 3 years, we're going to try to pick up what we can in the general fund. Okay. But I will get you some information on the schools that we've done and the remaining schools and the years that they're scheduled to be done. We can get that to you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Ms. Hall.
Mr. Jackson, given that, as I said, this is a security enhancement and an instructional enhancement, do the other departments contribute to helping this occur so that it doesn't just fall usually on capital projects?
As far as where these funds are coming from?
Where the funds to support this, are they coming from district-wide sources rather than just?
Yes, ma'am. These funds are coming from district-wide sources, schools, all departments. Wherever we have funds left, we'll pull in those resources to take this on.
So I can ask Chief Enoch later how much of his budget he's given to help us with this. Okay, he has his hand up. All right, thank you.
Okay. Did I call the vote? Yeah, I call it now. All in favor? All right. Thank you very much. Okay, before we get to the next subject, Ms. Kegler, would you please come and explain the New Hampstead situation?
Good afternoon, and let me see if I can actually pull this up and where we are with our turf fields and where we find ourselves specifically related to New Hampstead. That particular soil has been consistently a challenge for us. We have probably replaced the grass there on multiple occasions, and it has continued to fail. So the district has made the decision to move to turf. We've done a considerable amount of research on turf, the safety associated with turf, the long-term durability of turf as well. As it relates to our first athletic complex, that was the first one for us. So it was a new venture for us, out of the gate, 2,000 seats, visitors, team, concessions. Did we get it 100%? No. Did we do a better job on Savannah High? Absolutely. We had a ground to work from. When we got to Jenkins, it looks like a college campus. So as we continue to improve and update our design guidelines, you see us improving on that work. And that's what we're doing at Islands. When you have the home team and the visitors team coming in right here and your concessions here, that's not in our best interest. So that's why we were making the recommendation for the update. But specifically as it relates to New Hampstead, we're updating all of our high school fields to turf. And you'll be able to see them all and where we are. And it was a very ambitious goal to have them all done this summer and ready for the fall. We went out and we tried. We got contractors under, but we always have to do testing on the fields. When we were taking up the grass, looking at the work, looking at what the results of the test results were. Well, you see this red, and most of them on Johnson, we had a couple of spots here, a couple of spots there. This is the test results for New Hampstead High School. They actually took the entire field and said you had a problem. We can't proceed. If we fail the inspection, we have an obligation to mitigate it. We have to test it to make sure it's not going to create any problems or any danger to a student when he or she is on that field. We have to get the test results, and we have to abide by the test results. Over here to the right, what you see once we started excavating, this is what's under the ground. Similar to when we were over at Jenkins, we found a landfill there that we had no idea was there. We don't know until we get to start doing the work in our contractors. So this is what we have identified. So now it's going to take us additional time to actually continue to test and continue to remove. Then the question is going to become, how far do we go down? This is the water. That as we continued our work, continued to work with our contractor, they never walked off. They had to stop at some point, and we had to go in with additional testing on that particular area. So we worked on this piece last night. We've been getting constant updates as to see we have to actually put some strips down, test those, go back in and install. And if this doesn't work, if the compression doesn't work, if we still have stone, we cannot lay that turf. We can't do it. It's not going to be in our best interest because we run the risk of students having damage, having issues that we just don't want to have to deal with. So that's Johnson had some, but not the degree that we determined, and our test results gave us on New Hampstead. It's unfortunate. We put grass out there a couple of times, tried to get it to grow. So now we were hoping that the turf would prove to be in our best interest. So you see Johnson work there. These are kind of the results that we were, what you see some of the water, but we're mitigating that piece. Some of the schools we didn't have any problems with. None. Was able to go in, remove the grass, test it, and was able to lay the turf. So we're continuing to work. We're continuing to work with our testing partners to get those results, adhere to what those results are, and going to make the best recommendation, and the recommendation is going to be safe in the interest of our students is what we're going to do.
Thank you very much.
May I ask?
Mr. Smith and then Ms. Hall.
Just a quick question. Thank you for that report, Ms. Kegler. My question would be, have our parents and students of New Hampstead been made aware of the issue and that we're working on it consistently?
The first couple of emails that I received from parents, this is an update to the original report that we provided to them.
Gotcha.
But we'll be certainly more than willing to schedule a meeting. We'll walk the site with them, as best as we could. I actually shared the test results from our vendor in one of the previous presentations so they could actually see when we received it, what their recommendations were back to us as how we should proceed before we make any final decisions.
Awesome.
And what we would like to do is to spend some time, but the soil over at New Hampstead K-8, we're taking a look at that to see if that's going to be an option as a practice field. So no, it's not ideal to take them to Pooler. if we can keep them as close as possible on their site, have them just go right across the fence over to the K-8 facility, so that's something that we are investigating as well. We may be able to, not knowing what we're going to continue to encounter, but make it as convenient for them by possibly working on the K-8 field. There is a field right across the bridge behind them.
I'm certainly sorry that that's going on at New Hampstead, but I am glad to know that we are actively working to resolve it and to come up with a solution. Thank you.
Ms. Hall, and then Dr. Hoskins Brown.
One thing about your remarks now, are you saying that you do feel there will be a resolution, that in time, the testing, whatever needs to be done to make the soil adequate, will happen, or is there a chance
Still
that...
going to be contingent upon those final results. We've gone down 3 feet. Do we continue to go down? If we get down to 6 and we still have these kind of results, then we're going to have to make another decision. Okay. Because that's why we rely on professional consultants and our surveyors to actually go out and conduct these tests and bring these results back to us, along with some recommendations. You know, if we put the turf down and we don't have what we need in regards to how the students are going to be on that field, my recommendation is not going to be that we do it, because we run the risk of injuring students.
Okay. The other thing I want to make sure the public understands, though, is that this New Hampstead situation has nothing to do with the island situation. The money for New Hampstead has been voted on and put aside, and it's there.
It is solid.
No one else is going to be using that money for any reason but for New Hampstead. So what's happening at Islands is a whole different project, a whole different set of funds. So we need to make sure, because that's what I've been hearing, that why are you using funds to help the islands when we have this situation at New Hampstead?
The money
Totally
for New
different
Hampstead
projects.
is intact. Just as you vote and continue to vote, we have to bring budget transfers to you. We don't have the opportunity, the authorization to move money from one project to another without your approval. That does not happen.
Dr. Hoskins Brown.
I want to thank you for the report. I want to give my empathy to the parents who are dealing with this. I remember, one, as a student, when I was running track at Beach, we ran on the street because we didn't have a track. And then sometimes we got bused to Groves because they had a track. And I remember how that felt. And so I regret that it feels like there's not an investment, because that's not the case and that wasn't the intention. But I know how that feels when you're taking your child to go play or, in this space. And as a mother of someone who's playing football, I would be mad if my child got hurt because they were in an inferior space. So I just want you to understand that there's not an intentionality around this, that there is empathy for it, and we're working on a solution. Part of it is environmental. There's no consolation because football season's now.
It's here.
These kids are practicing now. They're playing now. So, there's not a lot that we have control over except to let you know that if we could be different, we would make it different, but it's not different.
Yeah.
And whatever comes before us from a decision-making side that will make this better for families faster, I would be supportive of.
Absolutely. And like I said, we were very aggressive. We tried to get every one of them done this summer. We were not going to put one over the other. We didn't award it to one vendor. We had several different vendors working on each one of these fields because we were not going to have Johnson ready, I have Islands ready, or Savannah High ready. We recognize sports in Savannah. So there were 6 different contractors working on 6 different fields. We just unfortunately encountered what we did not anticipate on New Hampstead, and we're going to give them all of our full support. And even if we have to start looking at, can we create something over at on the campus of the K-8 so they can at least have an opportunity to be very close to their school and not continue to have to be bussed away.
All right. Mr. Johnson, Dr. Howard Hall.
First off, as representing the New Hampstead area, I am sorry. I'm going to tell you the same thing I told Ms. Musgrove. I am very sorry. Unfortunately, things got buried underneath that soil, whether it was by God or man. However, I would much rather have our football players to be safe and in one piece and not have torn ACLs, MCLs, whatever, blown Achilles. I've seen that happen on soccer pitches as well, and it's not a pretty sight, and it's a sound that you never want to have to hear. As Dr. Hoskins Brown said, we have a lot of empathy for what you guys are going through. And like her, if anything that was put in front of us to help speed this along and change the situation, I would be in favor of it, and I'd be pushing for it. And like Ms. Hall said, the Island Stadium, that's different money, that's East Bluff's money. The money for New Hampstead is safe. It's not going to be touched by anything else. We're going to make sure there's enough money to make sure for y'all's players to have a proper practice field where they will not get hurt. So thank you for the report. And for all the parents and the moms, the football moms and everybody at New Hampstead that I've spoken to or texted, I've said the same thing too. So please know that this is not something we're taking lightly. We're not brushing it under the table. We want to make sure that our student athletes have the best facilities possible and the safest facilities possible.
Dr. Howard Hall.
Yes, I'd also like to just let the parent know I understand your passion. I myself was a football mom, booster president, for 4 years. Right now at Groves hadn't had a home gym probably about 3 years. So right now, they practicing in the middle school gym, and they have to go to other schools for home games because not having the gym ready. And they also are practicing at the Mercer, on the Mercer area for football. Please know that this is a priority. It's nothing that we're trying to hide. I'm thankful for the presentation to show the pictures of what's going on. And a lot of times, when you're in uncharted territories, you just don't know what you're getting into until you start digging. And safety is really the first priority. Some years ago, I could say 10 years ago, when my son attended Savannah High School, none of the schools had turf or anything like that. And ants were out there on the field, holes out there, kids probably, some getting injured. So we've come a long way, and we're working hard to make sure that safety is first and that all of our students are safe. And hopefully we can get this problem resolved soon, because I understand the anxiety. It's football season now, and you all want to be able to practice out there, but we just want to make sure that everyone is safe.
And we have weekly updates, so if you want to be the point of contact, I'll be more than happy to disseminate that information with you. As those test results are updated and what our schedule is, I am more than happy to provide that information. I'll make myself available.
Thank you so much. Mr. Kachmar.
Yeah, not to beat a dead horse, but we want to get it right the first time. And just so you know, and whoever else is here to talk about New Hampstead, we've been talking about the field at New Hampstead for a couple years now. I have kids who play sports. They would stand in holes up to their ankles, and we tried to maintain the grass. It was difficult. We voted to replace it with turf. We just ran into unforeseen circumstances, so the timing's bad. But the money is there. The board support for the school and specifically for renovating that field is there. I just wish it was open now. The one thing I wanted to mention, though, is I know raising money for teams is important. I know booster activity is important. To the extent we are sharing space with the city of Poole or the county, we don't have control over their policies and fundraising, but we do have control over what we can do internally with our fundraising. So I would just ask district staff, take a look at what we're doing when one school is at another site. What are the rules we have in place? I know some schools do shared fundraising, but booster support, particularly for a football team, is important. So I know that's a concern. Let's take a look at that too, if we could, please. And then thank you for offering to continue ongoing communications and updates with the community. I think that'll be important.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, now we do have Mr. Robert Deloach has come to speak. And you have 3 minutes. Thank you so much. Okay. Sorry about that.
I prefer to stand. I come on behalf, I am a proud Beach High Bulldog alumni, class of 1986. And I've had the pleasure of having 3 kids come through Savannah-Chatham County Public Schools through 8th grade. One graduated from Ohio State, ran track. Currently have one that plays football at Florida State. And I have my youngest son that's playing basketball at the University of Georgia. So when we talk about facilities for our young people, particularly in the high schools, in the middle schools, and I've coached, and I know most of you all here, I've coached at most of the middle schools here in Savannah. And Sean knows I've had inadequate facilities at most of the middle schools. And then when I see we're talking about the high schools, and we, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but, and I'm praying that it does get better, but there's no way that New Hampshire is going to be successful when the school sits here and all the facilities are down here. I've ran track out there for multiple years with kids, and when it rains, all of the water drains to the track, and you can only run in lane 3 and 4. 1 and 2 are obsolete. 6, 7, and 8 are obsolete because they're covered in water. So good luck with that. But as it, refers to these other communities and things like that, my son went to Islands High School. They have some of the best facilities, not only in high school, but for the middle school programs as well. So collectively, not just about one school, but our overall approach to how we look at schools for our young people, because Savannah's on fire for college coaches. I just talked to Deion Sanders about kids coming to Savannah to recruit our kids. And for New Hampshire, it's an atrocity because when the coaches come to see them, they don't have an opportunity to watch them practice. And that's not fair to them. And they represent our city. So we collectively, as a community, as leaders, we have to find something for these kids. Otherwise, what are they going to do? They're going to stop playing sports. And we all know you have to have a balance between education and sports. In football, and I say it in front of everybody, if you have a great football program, you have an opportunity to have great leaders in your school. So if we can have a good winning football program, have great facilities for these young people, all of the teachers and community leaders, their jobs would be much easier because now they have an opportunity to get rid of some of that energy. That's my less than 3 minutes. Thank you and good luck.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, thank you. You're the best. Okay. All right. So, huh? Are there? No. That was the one speaker on that subject. So, we'll have the official presentation now.
Okay, the next agenda item is, again, a fund transfer in Fund 308, Islands High School Athletic Complex Expansion Budget Transfer. Board approval is requested to transfer funds from the Fund 308 unallocated account to Islands High School fees, architectural, and construction account. The transfer includes additional funding to provide for contingency for the project. The funds will be used for the expansion of the Islands High School Athletic Complex, as detailed in the chart below, in the amount of $3 million. Thus be it resolved, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, that the board approve the budget transfer as described above.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Any more discussion? Good. All right. All in favor? All right. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Moving on.
Next item, Energy Conservation Services, Georgia Power, HVAC renovations for Garrison Elementary K-8. Georgia Power will provide construction, supervision, inspection, labor, materials, tools, construction equipment, and subcontracted items as needed for the execution and completion of the HVAC renovation for Garrison K-8 school following the energy conservation measure per Georgia Department of Education approved drawings and specifications by De La Harry Weeks Engineers for a lump sum pricing of $5,983,881. The funding source, again, would be East Plus 4. Thus be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the board approve the contract with Georgia Power for HVAC renovations for Garrison K-8 school for a lump sum pricing of $5,983,881.
Okay, Ms. Hall. Thank you. It's moved and seconded. All in favor? Right, thank you.
The next item is for RFQ C22-04, Design Professional Services for Chatham County E-Learning Academy. Again, this is coming out of East Plus 4. On February 2nd, 2022, the board approved RFQ C22-04, Architectural and Engineering Services, which is an annual contract. The awarded vendors are Cardale and Madrella Architects, PC, Goodwin Mills, Kaywood, LLC, Hanson Architects, PC, Hussey Gay and Bell, and DeYoung International, James W. Buckley and Associates, and Raymond Engineering, Georgia Incorporated. The first renewal was approved by the board on January the 11th, 2023. At this time, staff is requesting approval for Goodwin Mills Kaywood LLC to proceed with design services for the Savannah-Chatham E-Learning Academy. The construction cost limitation is $24 million. The fees for these services are $1.2 million for basic design services and construction administration services, and $40,000 for reimbursable allowance, not to exceed totaling $1,247,500 for the design professional fee. Staff has reviewed the proposal and requests board action to approve. Again, the funding source is East Plus 4. Thus be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the board approve the contract with Goodwin Mill Kaywood LLC for design services for Savannah-Chatham E-Learning Academy renovation for a total design professional fee of $1,247,500.
Been moved, seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Okay, the next item, Windsor Forest High School, J.E. Dunn, GMP change order number 2. On February the 2nd, 2022, the board approved the award of RFP C22-05, construction manager at risk for Windsor Forest High School replacement to J.E. Dunn Construction Company Incorporated with an initial stated cost limitation not to exceed $53,200,000. On April 12, 2023, the board approved component change order number 1 for a total amount not to exceed $18,771,014 under the direction of Hussey Gay Bell and DeYoung International. Final construction bid documents were prepared and issued for the project. Bids were received and evaluated, and the construction GMP was developed and finalized. The change order establishes a GMP base on the final construction documents and includes all amounts for the subcontract work, CMR's general conditions, construction contingency, and fees for a total GMP of $78,143,324. The final GMP also includes costs previously approved in component change order number 1. Below is the breakdown for the GMP. Staff recommends board approval of GMP change order number 2 for the Windsor Forest High School replacement, and the superintendent supports this recommendation. The GMP is within the budget for the project, and no transfer of funds is required. Thus, be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the board approve GMP change order number 2 to J.E. Dunn Construction Company Incorporated to establish the final GMP contract of $78,143,324 for the construction of the Windsor Forest High School replacement.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Yes, Ms. Brown.
Thank you. I just want to be clear. So the change order number 1 for $18,771,014, that is now inside this change order.
Correct.
So we don't have to cancel that, like later on when we're doing all the documentation for this project, what happens to that line item for change order 1? Do we void it, or like, how do we indicate that? How do we ensure later on when we're looking at this that we didn't process change order 1 and 2, that we're somehow canceling change order 1 if it's not in this resolution?
Okay, I'm asking Ms. Kegler to help me explain that.
That's what we'll see when you're using a CMR, a construction manager at risk, when you get your original cost, and as it states in the document, when they go out and get all of their final bids. So they refer to this kind of as the one is a component change order within that amount. So then you have what the breakdown is, and when he read that the amount for the subcontractors work, the CMR, general conditions, the contingencies, and all of that, once you get your final documents and they go and get all of those final costs, then that's where you now see the $78.1 million. You get that original cost in a CMR, unlike a bid. When you give us a bid amount, you've given us your price. Here you've given us a original amount until you go out to the marketplace and get all of your bids. And that's what this now represents as their guaranteed maximum price. But always remember now, when we talk about the guaranteed maximum price and not having to do a tutorial, they have a contingency within that project, we have a contingency within that project. So you're looking for, well, where does this money go now? It's in the project.
Okay, so I think I understand. I just want to restate what I understand as aligned with my concern. So when they turn in all their documentation for final clearance of the project and get all their money, there's not going to be any documents that refer to change order 1.
It will be an e-builder. Yes, it will. It has to be, every change order will be there.
No, I mean, change order 1 will be there, but it'll be authorizations on change order 1 will all be 0 because everything's going to be under change order 2.
Now you have a guaranteed maximum price.
Okay.
And believe it or not, we just kind of had this conversation with staff. We need to come back and do some updates on how we manage the difference between construction manager at risk and bids. I promise you, we just had this discussion. I tell you, though, we did. We said it's been a while since we've had it. And we need to come back and do some updates.
Thank you. Well, I mean, it's helpful. I understand we're set at the same price. I just wanted something that told me that change order 1 is dead. And we don't really have that, but I'm sure when you do the tutorial, I'll get it
You
better
set
than.
at 78 million. I don't want you to get stuck where we're set. You had a stated cost limitation, and that's what's in kind of our policy, like we do with design professionals. We have a stated cost limitation going in. They then go to the market and get their prices from their vendors.
Okay.
Does that help? Mr. Catchmore?
Let me see if this explains it in a different way. When they went out trying to get steel pricing, construction pricing, or land clearance pricing, electrical pricing, they thought it was going to be X, but now they have a final number. It's actually Y. So X on land clearing was our initial stated cost limitation of 53 and then the 18. So when they initially looked at it, they thought it was going to be $72 million. When we've actually finalized the actual cost of land clearing and everything else, it's 78. So we're only paying for land clearing once. So we're not going to pay for land clearing twice. We didn't approve land clearing in the initial contract and then in the component change order 1 and 2. Now all we're doing is getting the real final price that both the construction manager at risk and the owner is willing to agree to. And we're actually agreeing to is going to be the cost of construction. So
I get it, but
the first change orders were just what's the cost going to be. Now this is the actual cost we're all agreeing to for the same service.
Yeah, okay, so yeah, I was confused, but that's not what I was confused about. But I'm okay. My concern was on April 12th, the board approved change order 1 in this amount. And so what I was trying to find is the thing that undid our vote to make us no longer bound to voting on that resolution, not the total amount for the award, because I know you're not going to go over the GMP, but it's okay. I understand what y'all are doing. I understand what this does. What that tells me is that nothing undoes the vote that we did on the 12th.
No,
Okay.
I want to say we don't have it towards a process as opposed to, like, that was part of the process. Yes, I know it.
I understand there's a process, but our role is governance. And I'm just trying to make sure that our line of decision-making is clean. Not that you guys don't know how to run an operation, but I'm okay not having closure. I'm okay with that.
Okay. Ms. Howard Hall?
On a side note, in the absence of Dr. Brinkman, let's not make it more confusing and vote this down, and he finds out about it. Because I know he's very eager about the replacement of Windsor.
Right, any other discussion? All right, let's vote. All in favor?
Okay, I want to make sure I have the right item. The next item, again, is another East Block item for Garrison K-8 budget transfer. Staff requests the following budget transfer. Within East Block 4, funds are being transferred from the E4 Garrison K-8 construction renovation account and the E4 HVAC replacement and renovation account to the E4 Garrison K-8 HVAC replacement account. You see the from accounts where we're taking the funds from within East Block 4 and transferring to one account for the HVAC replacement in the amount of $5,983,881. Thus be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the board approve the budget transfer as noted.
It's moved by Ms. Hall, seconded by Mr. Kachmar. Any discussion? I just hope this, okay, let's make a comment, but I'm not going to. All right, all in favor? All right. And we are now at our, good. Going to hear more from the public now. First, we have Ms. Calderon-Diaz. Is Ms. Calderon-Diaz here? Okay. Come on down. We don't do it anymore. I'm sorry? Did you request a translator? Yes. Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry, we don't have a translator. Usually we ask that you request a translator report because we have to call one in.
Yeah, well, we requested it online.
Just before the meeting started?
No, just right before, like, with a little bit of anticipation. It was today, yes. But it was with anticipation. If it's okay with you, I can.
Can you translate?
I can try to do my best.
Okay.
Buenas tardes a todos.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Mi nombre es Mayra Calderón
My name is Mayra Calderón.
y estoy aquí ante ustedes porque yo vine la vez pasada a exponer el caso de mi hija.
I'm here in front of you because this is the second time that I came here, and I want to tell you about a case of my daughter.
Bueno, lo primero, el problema es la comunicación con la escuela porque yo solo hablo español.
I want to just first of all, I want to let you know that there's a communication problem because I only speak Spanish.
Y tuve un meeting con la escuela y se supone que tenían que tener listo todas las necesidades que mi hija tiene, lo cual no se han atendido hasta el momento.
So she said that she has a meeting with the school last year because her daughter has some special needs that has not been met and has been ignored since a year ago.
El año pasado todo se ignoró. Ese problema lo tiene mi hija desde kinder.
She has a condition that has been since kindergarten.
Fue atendido,
It was taken care of at the moment.
pero para primer grado ellos no hicieron nada por mi hija.
But in the first grade, that was el año pasado. Last year, she was in first grade. She didn't receive any of the service that she needed.
Y se supone que cuando terminó el año dijeron que se iba a hacer este año, lo cual no he visto movimiento, o sea.
So she said that she has a meeting with somebody in the school, and they make an agreement that those conditions will be met this year, but the year has begun, and none of the conditions has been met.
Yo quisiera saber cómo me pueden ayudar ustedes para que la escuela ponga atención a los niños que tienen estas necesidades especiales.
I would like to see how you all can help me to see if the school can help me to meet my daughter's needs and the needs of other children. That will be it.
Thank you very much. What school?
Yeah, it's a Rice Creek Elementary School.
Gracias, muchas gracias.
Thank you.
De nada.
And thank you all for.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, Ms. Matroni.
Good afternoon. Savannah-Chatham is fortunate to have a new set of eyes from a superintendent's lens to guide this district's performance in meeting the needs of all students, starting with literacy for all. Welcome, Dr. Watts. Today, I offer some statistics that identify a large problem that exists across the nation and is very evident in Savannah-Chatham County. According to the Center for Education Statistics, under the U.S. Department of Education, between the years of 2000 and 2019, the number of district administrators grew nationally by a whopping 87.6%, far outstripping the growth in the number of students, 7.6%, and teachers, 8.7%. Savannah-Chatham County has seen a similar trend in recent years, ending with a very top-heavy, bloated administrative org chart and lower enrollment. According to a February 2022 article in Savannah Now, Savannah-Chatham County Public School System has lost 1,167 students since 2019. For the next 5 fiscal years, the district predicts its student enrollment to decrease because of COVID-19 pandemic, a decrease in birth rates, and students attending private schools. The result of this trend of bloated administration has been to remove authority and money away from the schools where the students learn over to the bureaucracy. It is encouraging to see the recent headlines that speak to how districts are trying to solve this problem. Some examples include, in June, Detroit eliminated 300 positions, largely from central and school administration. Seattle saved $21 million by eliminating 70 administrative positions. Houston just cut 20% of its administrative staff. The chorus continues from Haywood County, North Carolina, and Turnsburg, Ohio, to Rapid City, South Dakota. Due to protracted school closures and the inadequacy of online learning during the the pandemic, our students are significantly behind and needier than ever. Let's take taxpayer dollars and state and federal funds and allocate to the area of greatest need within the school system, student academic proficiency. On behalf of Chatham County taxpayers and for the benefit of Savannah-Chatham County students, we ask for a major overhaul and reduction of the administration at 208 Bull Street. We hope to see Savannah-Chatham County Public Schools added to the ever-expanding list of school systems across the country that are redirecting authority and dollars back to the school level into the classrooms versus continuing to funnel them to bureaucracy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I will now accept a motion to adjourn. That's one way to get a lot of people in motion. Okay, all in favor? Thank you very much, and thank you, public, for showing up today.